Yeah, that's very nice. Wow. Well, I have to say that is maybe the nicest thing that is any, certainly in the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much, Dragontails. I'm almost embarrassed to repeat it, but this is why I do what I do. This is what makes it fun. He wrote, Bill, thank you for doing these. For years, the lounge has salvaged grumpy evenings, making me smile and believe good things. Does the same thing for me too, by the way, Dragon. I'm so glad to be here at last and hope to attend more of them live now. I subscribed a year and a half ago because of this show and plan to stay for life. I like so much you do, but these are something special. See you next time. Well, honest to God, thank you from the bottom of my heart, Dragon. Those kind of things are the reason I do. The reason I do this. It's that makes it fun. Makes it fun. I would feel like I would do it anyway. Somebody's got to put into words the stuff that we all believe. But nevertheless, when you hear something like that, it just absolutely just flattens me. And thank you very much. That's maybe the kindest paragraph I have ever seen. Hi there. We're all right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. So. Thank you. And thanks for all the rest of you. Thanks for all the members out there for making this show possible. And always see this? This is badly designed here. And all the rest of the Strata Loungers and all of the rest of the Aurora Republic guys and all the rest of all you people. It's great to see you. Sorry we missed you last week. We'd been on quite a roll. I think we had 6 or 7 in a row, and we certainly plan to keep that going as well. So, just one last little tease. I'm thinking for next week's Firewall. I have a friend named Mike Walsh, who many of you may know. He's a fighter. I met him through the Hollywood conservative group that has no name 10 years ago, and we hit it off very well. He's about 10 years older than me. He lives in Ireland now. And I always knew Mike was a fighter, and I always knew he had great political commentary, but what I did not know until very recently, about a year or so ago, wow, this guy knows something about music. I've since found out he was the music critic for Time magazine and has written a number of books which I should have read earlier, but one of them is called The Fiery Angel, and it's about culture and how art actually leads politics, not not reflects it. And it was great. So after I read The Fiery Angel, which I did in about a day, I got through that fast. I read his prior book called The Devil's Pleasure Palace, which is about the Frankfurt School and about just how poisonous this philosophy is. And one of the things that Mike pointed out, I'm named in that book, which is a very lovely feeling. One of the things Mike pointed out was something that's very obvious about the left. I've noticed it about the left, and that is that they adore complexity. That they think that anything that's simple has to be stupid, and that the more complex you make something, the smarter you are. When any idiot, I think, can see that it's exactly the opposite of that. Making something complex by just globbing more stuff onto it is easy. Making something simple is hard. That's why Bert's the genius that he is. We had this conversation 2 weeks ago on Stratosphere Lounge. It's like he wants something to go fast or go high. He doesn't just keep throwing more weight, which means more fuel, which means more weight on it. He just cleans it up as much as possible, makes it as simply as he can. But Mike was pointing out that the left loves complexity. And I certainly knew that was true. But what Mike pointed out that I hadn't given some thought to was that the reason they like complexity is because the more complex something is, the more easy it is to deceive somebody. And when I heard that, I thought, okay, that's obviously true. And then I did a kind of thought experiment that I often do, which is put myself into a fictional debate with a bunch of social justice warriors at Berkeley or something. And I thought, how would I be able to explain that to them? That by making things complex, if you make them complex enough, you can make people believe anything. And I had an example. This is what I'm going to do the firewall on. And I have an example. I just in my head, I'm just, like I say, I'm just driving to work and I'm thinking I'm in front of these kids, and I thought, what? I probably got the rhetorical skills to make people realize that something as obvious as possible isn't true. And I thought, okay, what's the obvious thing as possible? Is it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This morning on the way in, it was probably more like 10:30, and that's late. I'm usually here by 7 or 8. But I thought, okay, can I convince somebody it's broad daylight? Can I convince somebody that it's not daylight outside? Can I argue them into believing that it's not daytime outside? And so I started playing with that, so I'm asking, kind of doing this kind of Aristotelian thing in my head. So I'm asking this fictional student. I'm trying to prove to him that it's not daytime outside. So the first thing I did was I started to attack the idea of what is daytime. And I said, okay, so we know it's daylight because the sun is up. What about when the sun goes down? When the sun is down, it's still plenty of light out. You don't as much light practically as there was just a second before when the sun was up. So since there's as much light up when the sun goes down, is that daytime? Thinking now I'll get them on a spectrum, and then once I've got them on a spectrum, I just put the answer wherever I want it. But this particular student in my mind was cleverer than that. He said, no, the definition of daytime is when the sun is up. The sun in the sky, that's daytime. And then I just had the flash. So again, this imaginary conversation. So I said, okay, so you're telling me it's daytime now? Mm-hmm. Well, I have friends in London, and I'm going to call them right now. In fact, I called them before the show. And when I get them on the phone, they're going to tell you it's not daytime at all. They're going to tell you it's nighttime. And he'll say, yeah, but I wasn't talking about London. I said, I didn't ask you whether it was daytime in Los Angeles. I asked you if it was daytime, and you said yes. And it's clearly not daytime in London. You automatically used your privilege to determine that when daytime was mentioned, it would be your daytime, American daytime, rich, white American daytime. When in point of fact, Africa's in complete darkness right now. I suppose those people don't care, huh? I mean, they not care, I guess they just don't count. So if daytime is only when you say it's daytime, then what about the half of the planet that's currently at nighttime? Is it daytime for them too, just because you say it's daytime? And what gives you the right to say it's daytime? What makes your perspective here in Los Angeles, in Berkeley, so privileged that the fact that half of the planet is in darkness and you have the audacity to say it's daytime outside right now? It's clearly not. It's clearly not. If you want to be fair about it, you could, if you really, I mean, it's still a chauvinistic thing, but if you wanted to be fair about it, you'd look at the Earth and figure out where the most people are, and when most of the people on Earth were in daytime, at that moment, wherever you happen to be, you might be able to make a claim that that's daytime, but there are oppressed people all over the world. They don't have a chance to weigh in on this issue. So you saying it's daytime is a chauvinistic, individualized truth for you, but it's not true for everybody else. It's not the truth at all. It's just your personal opinion about something. And furthermore, if you think about it, since the sun is shining at the Earth all the time, it's never really daytime or nighttime. It's just the Earth is moving relative to this thing. There's no more reality to daytime than there is to nighttime. The sun is still shining. Their shadow is still there. It's just the Earth is rotating around. And especially you're clearly unaware of the amount of privilege that you're building into the statement when you say that it's daytime outside. I think you really ought to check your privilege, and I really ought to give us some serious thought to what kind of a person you are. And I would have had the opportunity to make that room full of Berkeley students seriously start asking themselves, well, he's got a great point, you know. I mean, what makes my perspective unique? And it is a Western Hemisphere perspective. And people in the East now, it's not daytime. And they'd start thinking all these things. They'd start thinking about it. And they'd start thinking maybe it isn't really daytime. Maybe the daytime, maybe the definition of daytime is, it needs to be really looked at from a relativistic sense. And then I'd have people questioning whether or not it was daytime outside, when of course it's freaking daytime. Any idiot can look out the window and see it's daytime. What's so hard about this? Is it daytime? Yes, of course it is. Well, it's not daytime somewhere else. Well, I'm not somewhere else. You're asking me if it's daytime. I'm here. I'm telling you it is. It's daytime. For me, it's here. You're asking me? You didn't say, is it daytime everywhere in the world? Or you asked me, it's daytime. For me, where I am right now, it's daytime. Of course, it's daytime. So it's like if you complicate things enough, you can make people believe anything. I remember somebody was during the Rodney King trial. It was somebody said that a good lawyer can make you believe that an elephant can hang over a cliff with his tail tied to a daisy. And I thought, that's it. If you take something obvious and smash it up into so many pieces and then argue each one of the pieces, you can connect things that just aren't true. And the sleight of hand is when you make an assumption, somewhere in that chain of taking something and smashing it down into pieces, somewhere in there you're putting in that thing that is just fundamentally not true. But then you're running with it, and since the situation is so complex, the person listening to it is not aware of where you went, where you tricked him. In that particular example, the answer to the trick is to simply refute the premise that when you ask me if it's daytime, you're not asking me if it's daytime in the world. You address the question to me. That's where sanity kicks in, and you can say it's daytime. But if you're not aware of that, especially if you put people on the defensive morally, make them start feeling guilty, then they'll start to wonder them, start checking their privilege about whether or not it's daytime outside. It's so much easier to make things complicated than it is to make them simple. Simple is genius. Any idiot can make things complicated. But making things simple is hard. And this is so true about them. I just really like that example. I thought I'm going to run with it a little bit. Because it is nice to be able to show just off the top of your head how you can convince people of just about anything. And when you can make people believe anything is true, then you can get them to believe that this socialism is true, when in point of fact it's just a bunch of bitter, soy boy males, most of them old men in their 80s, are almost all of the Frankfurt School were just genuine perverts, sponges, never worked, just sat around and tried to figure out a way to convince the suckers to make them in charge. It's basically what this whole socialism movement is all about. And Mike wrote something that I liked a lot. I don't remember the exact quote, but basically he said the only thing that allows the left to get away with destroying the country is our own weakness, is our own willingness to tolerate it. It's true. We give them the power. We just give them the power because we don't want to be seen as good people, don't want to be seen as bad people. It's unbelievably powerful. I've experienced it myself. Most of you probably have too. But just the ability to stand up and say that's absurd, you know it. I'm not gonna play this lawyer game with you. It's noon. The sun is shining. You ask me if it's daytime. If you are trying to prove that it isn't, then the way you are doing that is by destroying language and making language whatever you want it to be, and that's not what language is. And I'm not gonna fall into that trap with you. I'm not gonna play in that game. We both know it's daytime. You just want to be able to tell me whether it's daytime or not. And And I'm a nice guy, but I'm not that nice. Anyway, that'll do it. Thank you for all the questions. Sorry I didn't get to more of them. I am just kind of sleepy tonight, I'm sorry to say. Thanks again for joining us. It's always great to see all the people out there. And we will see you next week right here on your Stratosphere Lounge. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.